Well, next on Central Weekend, the Euro porn debate. In less than 5 years' time, quiz shows with stripping contestants could be available to British viewers. Shows that are based on little more than titillation and innuendo. Shows like this.
Prova a dirmi perché io dovrei giocare questa notte sopra un letto insieme a te. La ginnastica che mi proponi di fare dura un'ora e poi ti senti su per me. Che male sei, perché chi è vicino a te ti sfiderà di giorno.
In this week's Mail on Sunday, Dr. Miriam Stoppard's 7-day diet plan. A simple and healthy method of losing those few extra pounds in just 1 week. The Mail on Sunday and You magazine. A newspaper, not a snooze paper.
Any minute now he's going to speak Hungarian. All financial people speak Hungarian to me. I thought a unit trust was a surgical support. I thought a pension was a small hotel in France.
Right. Do you know the name Friends Provident?
Friends Provident, they're great.
Well, we prefer to say, while future performance can't be guaranteed, Friends Provident policyholders have enjoyed impressive long-term benefits.
You see, fluent Hungarian.
Well, let's put it another way.
Chinese?
They make money grow.
English?
Friends Provident, we've grown big by being recommended.
You sure this is the right place?
What's what it says here? The best room in the house.
We can't possibly buy this. What about our fireplace?
If you ever change your mind about leaving me behind, baby, bring it to me. Bring your sweet loving.
RONSEAL brings home the beauty of wood.
McDonald's presents double features.
I don't know how to say this.
Unspoken desires.
I'm starving.
Totally fulfilled with McDonald's double features. Double cheeseburger and double fries.
I wish this could go on forever.
It can't. McDonald's double features, just £1.59.
Hey, Mr. Beaver, why are you beavering around? Haven't you heard of Cadbury's Caramel? See, as the thick Cadbury's milk chocolate melts with that dreamy caramel, you just have to take things really easy. Looks like somebody else could do with some. Take it easy with Cadbury's Caramel.
In this country, 10 million cars can be adjusted to unleaded petrol. Now. Quickly and cheaply. Often it's free. And unleaded petrol costs about 10 pence less than ordinary 4-star.
Please.
So now there's every reason for you to adjust to unleaded. Every reason in the world. Adjust to unleaded now. The change will do us all good.
Hold it, no way. Thank you very much indeed. Not just yet, but in a few years' time, that's the sort of thing we could find on multi-channel television. Theme tune's not bad though, Colin, I'd like to say, if you don't mind me saying so. A lot better than ours anyway. Well, in Britain... In Britain, we are still governed by decency rules on television. Now, those rules are a lot stricter than in some European countries. Tonight, we ask, should we in Britain be allowed to watch whatever we like on television? Now, we had a taste of COLPO, GROSSO, is that how you pronounce it? Lizzie, yeah. Now, you took part in that show, didn't you? We heard earlier on a little bit about the show, but what kind of people watch that show, do you think?
Well, it's #1 in the ratings on Canale 4, which is one of the main channels in Italian television. And, I mean, millions watch it. You know, we've got a wide range of people. You've got your lorry driver to your top civil servant, and they even take part in the show as well.
I mean, I was led to believe that on one show, I mean, a brain surgeon and...
We had a brain surgeon who had to leave rather quickly because his beeper went off twice during the show. And
did he have any clothes on at the time? Or?
A thong.
A thong, yeah.
And a top-ranking
And he still had his bleeper in the thong, did he?
Professional to the end.
Classic, isn't it?
And we also had the lady contestant was a top-ranking civil servant. And these are the type of people that are queuing up to get on the show. They're not your Mr. and Mrs. Average.
Well, Mark Fisher, I mean, if these are the kind of people who are queuing up to get on these kind of shows in Italy, I mean, is there a real danger, do you think, that with deregulation, everything else that's going on in broadcasting at the moment, that these programs could actually have people here queuing up to be on them?
Yes, as you say, the only thing that stops some broadcasters putting out programs like that at the moment is the fact that there are strict regulations about decency and about quality of programs, and the government's new broadcasting bill that they're going to introduce later this year is going to take away those regulations that very specifically regulate what ITV particularly can show, and that will open the way, as indeed will satellite broadcasting.
I mean, Elizabeth, if I asked people here tonight about deregulation, they probably wouldn't really understand what deregulation was. All they're concerned about is what they see on the television. Now, are programs like that going to get through, do you think, eventually?
Yes, I think they are. There's going to be a terrific incentive because they're fairly cheap to produce, and as Lizzie says, they pull in the crowds, and that's going to be good business. And if all you're interested in is broadcasting, making maximum amount of money for the people who own broadcasting, rather than a good range of programs and a variety of programs, then there's going to be a terrific temptation to produce this.
So then
wait a minute. Can I just make a point? The show is very, very strictly run. It's not.
Oh, really?
It's not just thrown together. The amount of time spent on the people who are stripping is minimal. It's second, it's what you will get on Benny Hill, really.
But
I mean, you could class Benny Hill as offensive. You know,
some people actually do class Benny Hill as offensive.
Yeah,
well,
some people do, but
he's so popular?
But the point is...
Victor Lance, let me just introduce you first of all. You used to run Playboy.
Exactly.
And Playboy has its own channel in the States, doesn't it?
Does indeed. But the point is that it isn't a question of people just making money. It's a question that there are a lot of people who want to see this rubbish. And I may feel it's rubbish, and I may not even want to watch it myself. But I think that properly, where there is a market that people want to see something, and it isn't terribly shocking and offensive like hardcore pornography, which this is not, why, let them be if it's after 11 o'clock at night.
You're saying we need no regulations whatsoever?
Well, some regulation, because hardcore pornography is too offensive and shocking for the public. And some people would not like to have their children exposed to programs, younger children. Although I have a grandchild who spends a lot of time hanging around breasts, so I don't think it would shock him particularly.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
He's only a year old.
Breast fetishes.
The point is that these are not terribly shocking things beyond people's ken. We permit the sale of Playboy, Penthouse, Mayfair, many other magazines. So for this to reach that kind of a market seems perfectly acceptable to me, even if I might not want to watch it. But there are many things I don't want to watch that there's room for on television.
And at the same time, you haven't got to watch them. You've got a choice whether or not you watch it or not.
Exactly.
No one is forcing this show down anyone's throat. The people watch it because they want to.
Let me introduce James Bogle of the National Television Viewers and Listeners Association. Is that panel is headed by Mary Whitehouse, isn't it? Yeah. What are your views?
Well, I mean, that is a classic one. That, you know, there's the off button switch. Why don't you turn the off button? The fact of the matter is, you can't turn off the effect. Just because I turn off the set in my home will not turn off the effect of pornography. There's no good Victor Lowndes saying it's not hardcore. What he defines as hardcore, being a manager of Playboy, is very different from what most other people define as hardcore. The fact is you can't switch off the effect simply by turning off your own set. If there's some other guy watching pornography in his home and it's going to just be sufficient to switch his mind so that he wants to go and do something as a result of it.
No, I don't accept that. For one thing, there are laws against obscenity, and there are laws against presenting obscenity on television or in magazines, newspapers, videos. So I accept those laws, and I think other people would too. And if they transcend those laws, they'd be punished by the law. But to have people like Mary Whitehouse deciding what is suitable...
With all due respect, the laws, as you well know, and if you don't know, well then frankly you ought to do some finding out about it, is absolutely ineffective. The Obscene Publications Act 1959, as everybody knows, is ineffective. It is not able to stop the flow of hardcore.
We need tighter laws, is what you're saying.
Okay, let's get the view. I mean, everyone here tonight, I would have thought, is a viewer. I mean, you wouldn't have come here otherwise, would you? Well, maybe you wouldn't. Never mind. You, sir.
There will, of course, have to be some regulations, but if people want to watch these things, they're not obscene, and if they're on late enough at night, then why stop them from watching
the point the gentleman he was making is what it could lead to. Do you accept that...
There will be regulations to stop obscenities and what it could
Can we
lead
also
to.
make the point that if this is stopped, there will always be something else round the corner that somebody can go and watch or look at. And every time you try and stamp something out like this, they'll just go and look at something else. And at the end of the day, if something's really hard to get or really hard to look at, people are going to try even harder to find them.
But Lizzie, you say that you can swap channels, but as I think you'll confirm, in Italy, Signor Berlusconi, who owns the channel that you appear on, also owns almost every other channel, and indeed even the state-run station is now putting on similar shows to compete. He has taken the whole of television in Italy down market to such an extent that the Italian Parliament are now introducing
it. Let me just bring in, we're talking about Italians, let me bring in Andrea Michelozzi. That's, I hope I pronounce it. Now, we have an interpreter so that you are able to hear what's going on the programme tonight. Your programme is called Casino Casino, the emphasis being on the final vowel there. Let me just ask you, do you feel that your programme that we saw a clip of, or maybe going to see a clip of now, is actually a down-market programme?
I don't think so. When we thought about making this program, we thought about a program which wouldn't sort of hurt the ethics and the moral taste of the viewers. So we wanted we wanted to allow all people to see this kind of show, a kind of show which in fact everybody sees in casinos, but which wouldn't really hurt viewers. We also didn't want to pull away from the screen the Italian public.
You have bare-breasted girls, you have either taking their clothes off or putting them back on, and we've seen a clip of that. I mean, why do you feel that it's necessary for you in your particular business to have that kind of level of nudity on the screen? I mean, can you not carry out the show without it?
Non potrebbe fare uno show senza questo livello di nudità.
As
you know, our presence in Europe is effective as of last December. We have about 39 million viewers in the whole of Europe, from Finland to Portugal. Between 2 and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. When we created this show, we thought of creating a show for Europe, and we realized that even in this case, we must not go beyond the limits of decency and of what is considered usual ethics. We've had this problem in Italy, and we talked about it, but we think that some regulation will happen in Italy.
Okay.
Because the market itself wants it, and some people want it.
Without regulation, I think, and if they're allowed to be to put on anything they like, I think there's one simple test that you should ask any producer of this kind of a show. He's got a mother, presumably, he's got a wife, perhaps, and children. Would he be happy to sit down in his own living room and watch the kind of shows he makes with his own family, because the people at home have to do that. I mean,
We'll ask him that question in a moment because it takes a while to get through. But we do have another. I'm not dipping out of it. We will ask him. We do have another producer here who is quite keen to bring this kind of programming to the UK.
Absolutely.
Now,
and if it's made with quality, then the public will decide.
Now you have a wife and child. Presumably you had a child with you this evening, so yes. I know that. Would you, as this gentleman said, Jim Murray,
if I was producing that programme and that was on at after 11 o'clock at night, my child would be in bed. That's what their responsibility.
Well, they should be.
A lot of them are. Not only a lot of them are. Absolutely not the right of rule of the broadcaster to look after.
It is the role of the broadcaster to think of that. Yes, it is. They've got to think of these possibilities.
One at a time, please. In a second, Victor,
I think we're getting away from what television is. Television is not a private thing, it's a community thing. You must take responsibility for the programmes you make. That's one of the joys of working in the medium. Why trivialise it and why degrade women in the appalling way that you do? And the fact that you're going to make money out of it does not make it acceptable.
If men want
we're members of one another. We've got to help one another.
There's a gentleman here, sorry, Victor, he's been itching to say something. He's got a big smile on his face at the moment.
Yeah,
one in the middle there.
It does shift the argument slightly, but I'd like to pick up Mark Fisher's point, which I think is true. We can have a debate about the rights and wrongs of any individual programme, and I think I've heard an awful lot of hypocrisy by those who are producing them at the moment. And this question of having it late at night, I always thought most of these could be videoed and watched the next morning if necessary. But what Mark Fisher was saying is true. It's not just one individual programme that we're talking about. It's the effect on the whole of television, because, as he quite rightly says, these are private companies. They've got to make profits, and they can shift everything in a particular direction.
Jim Murray, I mean, you are a television writer. Do you trust the companies that are operating at the moment? I mean, if they are going to stick to various guidelines?
I don't. I think they've got their guidelines, but quite often you see quite outrageous and to the most offensive to me, violent shows on, especially old movies. They keep on saying, oh, we cut all the rough stuff out of Hollywood movies, and we cut out the obscenities, and we cut out the violence. But you can switch on at 11 o'clock at night and see the most violent movies. Now, I think they say, oh, it's 11 o'clock at night, people are adults, they can show it. But there are many families in this country where kids are neglected, their parents are not in control at that time, or they're neglecting their children. I think they have to take some responsibility for a medium which is going into homes where there may be no control over the TV set, and think of the social effect it might have on young minds.
Yes, okay, wait a second. Now I want to make a point. If more time was taken looking at the
Victor is fighting for time.
Looking at the problem of people who have got social problems, rather than rabbiting on about what should be on TV or not, things would be cleared up a lot quicker.
Yes, but what they're suggesting, wait a minute, what they're suggesting is that the material shown on television should be reduced to what's suitable for an unstable 12-year-old.
Victor.
And that is, Justice Frankfurter of the U.S. Supreme Court once said, to reduce the reading material available to what's suitable for 12-year-olds is to burn the barn to roast the pig.
It's not to be compared to reading material. You choose to buy a book, you choose to buy the kind of book you want to read. Television is not a choice. It goes into every home in the land, whether the parents are there to control it or not. And although everybody says parents should control it, we all know there are parents who do not control it.
Some people who are viewers, you, sir.
Right, look, the point about, the 12-year-old kid, right? Now, that kid can walk into any newsagent and see dirty magazines on sale, on stands there.
They can look at page 3 in the newspapers. Yeah.
Not out of the reach of kids. He can see those magazines there. Whether he's going in to buy anything, he can see them there. He can see page 3 in The Sun. Now, this show is supposed to be a fun show, right? Some people might be offended and some people might not. That little bit at the beginning was fun. Everybody was having a good laugh.
We have a viewer who keeps ringing in, right, who wants to know exactly. You're Liz's boyfriend, aren't you?
No, I'm Carolyn's boyfriend.
You're Liz's husband. Yeah. We have a viewer, apparently, who was ringing 3 or 4 times, who missed the beginning of the programme, who wants to know just exactly what Lizzie was doing on television and whether or not you approve of it.
Whatever Lizzie does,
she's a responsible person. She knows exactly what she's doing, and if it's too risky in Lizzie's mind, she would be the first plane back into this country.
She was standing on television with just what, a pair of briefs?
She was just doing topless, which you'll get on many of the beaches, the most popular resorts throughout the world, and everybody sees far more content on these beaches than I've ever seen.
But they won't get beamed into people's homes. So
Gentlemen, please.
Can I say that I think that this programme is taking the whole argument about deregulation off onto an extraordinary tiny little part.
Very important.
It may be important, but
people
the
have
number
talked about, let me just say something to you, sir. People have talked about deregulation, and very few people know what deregulation actually means. The point that we are talking about tonight is, I think, an intrinsic part that has been overlooked so far when we're talking about deregulation.
But you're making much too much emphasis on sex shows, on shows where people undress. Well, how many programs do you think there will actually be where after we have 50 channels?
Well, there are enough programs, sir, for the Italian government to come over to this country this week, I gather, and actually be very concerned about how deregulation has gone in Italy with that number of programs.
But in Italy, there are whole nights of opera on channels on Channel 3 in Italy. There are all kinds of programs, very serious programs. Some of the most serious and most interesting programs in Europe are being done by Italian television. You're giving an impression that Italian television is all girls taking off their clothes, and that some magic moment after deregulation, whatever it is.
Okay, what's your point, Elkin?
My point is that there are going to be available on your set. Now we have 4 buttons to press. There'll be 50 buttons to press.
What I'd like
on those 50 buttons, there will be all kinds of programs to suit all kinds of tastes.
Right.
And if people want to see pornography or semi-pornography, good luck to them as far as I'm
Everybody's
concerned.
getting this wrong. I actually was in the show.
You were.
And I'm an English girl, and nobody realises nobody's seen the game. And they're all judging.
We've seen it because we've had to watch it because of the, obviously, do the research for the programme.
They're making out as if it's a pornographic show, which it wasn't. But nobody's ready to sit down and watch it to realise that it was only a topless show.
I think these gentlemen are more worried about what we see on television rather than what we hear on television, because the language sometimes is vile, you know, even before 11 o'clock. So I think they ought to be more worried about the language.
About COLPO GROSSO, it goes out after 11 o'clock.
I'm all with you, I'm all with you.
It's aimed
one at a time,
adults.
please. What's going on here?
What I'm saying is that the show is an adult show.
You've got to this is an adult show. Lady there.
To women, whatever way you look at it.
Go on, Kat. Right, this is an adult show. Yes, you're right.
Can I just say, there's the freedom of choice. OK, we can turn the TV over, but there are men sitting at home. There are women walking home from a club or wherever else, and they're the ones who are being attacked in the streets because of sex.
I have actually been mugged in London. I have been attacked. Yes, I was. No, I was attacked for money.
Listen, I'm going to...
You're lucky, and the more you try...
Are you appearing?
One at a time, please.
For money. No regard.
Thank you. Would you mind? Excuse me. Excuse me.
You're prostituting yourself for money.
We are debating television here.
I've given the choice as to whether I want to do it
Mr. Michelozzi has travelled a long way to be here tonight from Italy. Do you mind? He's going to get the wrong idea of British television. Mr. Michelozzi, you have travelled a long way to be here with us tonight. You wanted to say something in defence of the standard of your programmes, I know, before we finish.
Non sono venuto certamente in Inghilterra per difendere.
All the way to England to defend me or to defend the Italian public or the Italian audience or the Italian programs. There are 2 things that I would like to say, however. Many people think that deregulation is a system which lives without rules at all. I think that deregulation must not do without rules altogether. I think we must take into consideration our ethical values, the education that we have. we must understand, we must create an international language. We are the first television that expresses this whole potential throughout Europe. That's number one. Number two now, that I would like to say, is that in Italy there are other experiments in this line, but we've worked a long time to do that. We haven't improvised Italian.
It has never happened on the programme that the last word has been in Italian. Thank you very much indeed for being with us tonight.
It is indeed where we call it a day for another Central Weekend. The team answering the phones have, I think, had some fun tonight. Miss Cullen from Quinton can't see what all the fuss is about. If we can see it in newspapers, why not on television? Mrs. Crabb from Rugby says she doesn't want programmes like this. If 6-, 7- and 9-year-olds say they're affected to the extent they assault a pensioner, then this should be banned totally. However, I would like to say a particular thank you to the lady who rang in to say how nice it was on the Greyhound debate to see such a heavily pregnant presenter. Thank you very much. I'm not. The diet starts Monday. Handy.
Well, isn't that marvellous? Hey, thanks very much indeed for that. Well, next week, have you been the victim of sexual harassment at work, or are you one of those blokes who's guilty of it but thinks it's harmless? Thank you, something's just popped in. If you have a tale to tell, then write to us at this address, Sexual Harassment, Central Television, Birmingham B1 2JP. That's Sexual Harassment, Central Television, Birmingham B1 2JP. And just a final word from one of our viewers tonight. From all the girls in the phone room, actually. Sorry they haven't been answering the phones for the last 5 minutes, but they've just left to catch the next plane to Italy. Hey, what about it? Well, that is all from us tonight. Do join us again at the same time next week. From all of us on Central Weekend, a very good night to you in Britain and in Italy after watching us. Good night.